I could point to what led me into my filmmaking career, I think, by looking at my early life. But I don't think I thought of myself as creative for a very long time. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago that I actually was like, oh, I am a creative person. I'm like somewhat of an artist, but I just never had that like view of myself beforehand. But definitely like the starting of, like, I can probably point back to the first camera I got as like the start point of all this. And I got that because I was like a weird child and I was obsessed with my trampoline. So I used to go on my trampoline like every single day. And like if it was raining, I would like zip up my jacket, put my hood up and just go on the trampoline anyway. And then I used to film myself like doing tricks on it, off of it, whatever. And I even like, I think I begged my dad for a camera, and it's still like probably the most expensive gift I've ever gotten in my life. It was like 300 quid or something, but it was like, that was just so big at the time. Like my family don't really do gifts in a big way, but that was the one where it's like, holy shit, like they actually did it. And that's something I'll probably take forward, that like, if I have children and they're like asking for something and it's like, it could be that key to unlock their future selves, or a passion like that, like art supplies, anything like that, I'm like, okay, that's when you sink the money and go for it, because it could be huge. So like I got a camera when I was like 13, just like a little handy cam, but that was definitely the start of like everything for me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so you were saying it took you a while to sense yourself as an artist. Do you think that's because the activities you were doing didn't make sense in those terms in your head, or?
Yeah, I think I was probably a little bit embarrassed by it almost, or like I just never wanted to come off as like, just like, yeah, I guess I was just afraid of being like labeled as anything. And yeah, also maybe just a lack of confidence in my ideas, where like I always felt like at that stage I was like, I'm going out making videos, taking pictures. I think I felt a little bit more like I was capturing something rather than creating something.
Right.
So I never felt like an artist who's making something from scratch. I felt like I was just capturing what was there a lot of the time.
That's a great way to put it. I think it's hard to try and label yourself before you feel like you've earned it in some way.
Yeah.
And it's also hard, sometimes to realize that what you do innately can be really difficult for another person. Like,
Yeah, there's probably so much of my influence that goes into it that I'm not even thinking about. To me, it just feels like I saw something and just captured it. And I was like, that was easy. It wasn't even me,
yeah.
but it was.
Yeah.
And that's what I've had to try to teach myself a little bit. I think it even still happens to me in the opposite way, when there's like even if I'm directing an ad or something, if there's loads of people on set, then it feels a bit less of mine. Like if it's a crew of like 15 people, then I'm kind of like, did I even make that? Because there were so many people involved. Whereas then like if I'm doing a music video and there's like 4 of us working really hard, then I can really confidently be like, that was my video.
Right. And so just to work back a little bit, you get the camera, you're filming yourself on the trampoline. How does that then progress into photography and filmmaking and so on?
Yeah, I would like, for a long time I was just filming myself on the trampoline, and then it was actually when that was from the age of like 13. I started working in a trampoline park then, and I met some guys who did parkour, and I was around 18 when I started doing parkour, which is, yeah, I guess it's kind of late looking back on it. It feels like my whole life, but I was about 18 when I actually went out and started, doing flips on concrete. And then the big passion became like filming each other, because that's such a big part of the sport. And when you look at like, there's just so many filmmakers and photographers come from skateboarding, BMX, that world. And like Spike Jonze is one of my biggest influences and inspirations. Like everything about his whole career path and like who he is just speaks so much to me. Because he, like, for people who don't know, he founded a skateboard company, went into music videos, ads, then like Oscar winning films, but will still always go back to his skateboard roots, his advertising roots, his music video roots. Like he doesn't, and even within his films, he doesn't stick to a genre. He's just like an all-around creative, and I'm so inspired by that. But yeah, there's just so many good people who've come from like skateboarding, parkour, just because filmmaking is such a big part of it. Like there aren't necessarily these awards or medals. Like most people their medal or their reward is the clip they get at the end of it. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah. The Spike Jonze influence makes total sense when looking at your work. I think even in just how you approach ideas in music videos, where you sort of mix surreal concepts with those practical elements,
Great.
And so how did it then progress from filming parkour to filming things that had nothing to do with that?
I honestly think I was just finishing school and didn't know what I was doing. But every weekend I was shooting stuff on a camera. Or no, I must have decided I was going into film before I started doing the parkour. So, but I kind of had that camera, and yeah, I think I started taking kind of realized at some stage I can take photographs with this.
Right.
And at the time, it was me and a couple of friends exploring abandoned buildings, climbing cranes, and just like that was my photography. Which is funny because I'm the complete opposite now, where I I almost don't care about like landscapes or objects or scenes. Like I'm very people oriented. So yeah, I kind of just had the camera, and film just kind of like was waving at me, and I was kind of like, listen, this either will be something I'm into or a nice little break for the next couple of years when my parents aren't asking me what I'm doing with my life. So I did film and French in DIT.
Right. Okay.
I couldn't speak French, but I had to do it
Yeah.
because I didn't get enough points to just do film on its own. So yeah, I just like was failing my exams every year, and I somehow scraped through college. It was crazy that I got through.
And how was that experience on the film side of things? Do you feel like you learned a lot, or was it more about access to gear, or?
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much shit on the course. Like, I actually think it's changed now. So it's in Grange Gorman now. When I did it, it was Ainger Street, and it wasn't great, like facility wise, gear wise. I also didn't really apply myself much. I was kind of working a job and trying to balance college, and I kind of just fucked around for a few years, but I just at the same time was on YouTube nonstop. And I just think I learned like 90% of the things on YouTube. But then made some great friends in college and made a couple of connections that carried on. So I definitely don't regret those years, but I'm not sure if it was like the course for me. There was very little practical hands-on stuff, which is all I wanted to do.
Right. And so coming out of college then, did you try immediately for a job in filmmaking, or did you try freelance, or how did that work for you?
How did that work for me? I actually, when I finished college, I went to New York for a year, and I didn't do too much in terms of filmmaking for that year. Like it was a little bit of a year out, but I did really fall in love with photography. Up until that point, like as I said, I'd taken a few photos of abandoned buildings and stuff. But I used to just finish my shift in the restaurant. I'd have my camera with me like every single day. I always had my camera. That was like a kind of rule I made for myself in New York. And then every day I'd finish work and just walk, just take photos of anything I could. And at first it was more like buildings, like structures and stuff. And then I got more into taking photos of people. There's this amazing culture of street photography in New York, which I'm still obsessed with. And I think I honestly made so much improvement in like my visual style and skills in that time, and also confidence. Because yeah, I would just go up to people and like either take their photo without asking, which you can kind of do in New York.
Yeah.
Or if it was someone really interesting, I'd ask their permission and I'd like sit down with them and chat to them and take their photo. And I'm still like really happy with the photos I took during that time.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Those kinds of creative periods where you're sort of teaching yourself and figuring it out on your own terms, I think are invaluable, you know?
Yeah.
And so coming back from that experience, it was sort of the launch into a more intentional interest in photography as like a career move.
Yeah, and I was making like a few videos here and there at that time. I'm probably being modest about that because I'd obviously made enough that when I came home, I basically got a job in this company, Bold Studios, like straight away. And I think I was quite lucky that like that company was just kind of taking off as I was just learning. Like I was in a nice place where like, I think if they'd seen my show reel like a year or 2 years later, I don't think I would have got hired, but I was in a nice spot where I wasn't that experienced, but that maybe they weren't either as a company.
Right.
And then, yeah, Bold was amazing. I was in Bold for 6 years. So that was like the next huge chunk of my life.
Okay.
And I was just learning so much every single shoot.
And did your role change every shoot, or?
Yeah, so it's quite a small company, and like it really was, yeah, like different all the time. I kind of came in the door as a bit more of an editor, and then you start to get trusted a bit more and allowed on set and on shoots, and then slowly building up. And then yeah, in the end, I was like a little bit of everything: directing, DOPing, editing, sometimes just assisting, depending completely on who's available and what the job is. So I think that's quite an unusual experience, but I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah.
And
That was sort of like your college then.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. And I actually love, like, I always wanted, like, from the time I was in college, I wanted to direct, but I always had this idea of like wanting to understand the full scope of filmmaking first, as opposed to just jumping in and being like, I'm the director, without knowing how to edit, how to shoot. Like, I love the idea of just building up your time in each role, paying your dues,
Yeah.
so that at least you can communicate with everybody on set and in post-production as to exactly what you want.
And especially with your stuff, like where the concepts of the videos are so usually quite creatively demanding and would require, I imagine, a lot of collaboration. And
Yeah.
so like, just like you say, having that, not even expertise, but just enough knowledge to communicate your vision to multiple people is so key.
Yeah.
And
My New Year's resolution for 2026 is to learn how to trust people. I'm just like so bad at being like, I'll do everything. And then I'm just there like pulling my hair out. Instead, when there's like a million people who've messaged me like, we will help you with anything. I'm so bad at trusting people with stuff.
oh yeah, like I'm the exact same. But I think that's so common, because it's almost like the only way you see it when it's in your head is through you.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to like, yeah, as you say, find that trust and accept outside help, and so through doing the Bold Studios, touching nearly all the departments in that experience, did you emerge with any particular area where you were like, oh, this is something I want to lock in on now, whether that be directing, editing, or cinematography or
Yeah. So actually one of the hardest things, I went freelance about a year ago, and probably the hardest part for me was deciding what I am. Like, it's tough. You've got a bit more leniency in Ireland that like you can do a few different things. I think if you were to go to London, you've got to be so specific about what you are. But yeah, I'm going down the path of director and photographer. Like, I think that there's a nice combination there. Because I started out wanting to DOP a little bit more, and I kind of I realized I'm not the most technical person, and like a lot of DOPing at a higher level is like really technical gear problem solving. I like it. It'll take me twice as long to build a camera as some people I know. So I definitely think I'm more of an ideas man, and probably what I love the most on set and in what I do is like communicating with people, actors, models, and like making them feel comfortable and easing them into things, which I slowly realized that like as a DOP, you don't really have that interaction. Your interaction is with the director, but you don't get to talk to the talent and direct the talent as much. And that's a huge passion of mine.
Yeah, and now knowing your personality, I would say that's where a major part of your creativity can shine.
Yeah.
It's because it's an art form in itself, communicating with actors, and it's part of the process that you can't really learn from your bedroom. Like you need to be interacting with people.
Yeah.
And each new person presents a new challenge because you're vibing off what they're like and who they are.
Yeah.
And then changing gears in order to get the best out of them. It's a very abstract part of the whole process.
And I think it was something I realized like with years on set, like kind of helping out and in lesser roles, is that like I realized a lot of directors aren't that good at talking to people. And I think it's something that I can thank like my years of like working in the trampoline park, in restaurants, and then getting into street photography. Like it wasn't a natural thing for me to talk to strangers, but it's something I really had to teach myself how to do. Like when you're working in a restaurant, you got to turn on that little bit of charm and like make people feel comfortable. And it's something that I probably subconsciously built up over years.
Right.
But then once I got on set, I felt like I could transfer those skills from like these minimum wage jobs, and it felt kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're using all your experience, and as an artist, I feel like you can't help but take all those tools to the table when you're, trying to bring an idea to life.
Yeah.
And like you had just referred to yourself earlier as an ideas man, and knowing your work, like, that makes complete sense. But is that something you had to sort of develop when you came out of Bold Studios? Like, again, that thing of not just capturing, but generating your own ideas and projects.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've had to develop, and still to this day, that point on like creating versus capturing, I still can't sit down with a blank page. I need to create a problem and then solve the problem.
Right.
So like it's easy if I'm working with a brand because I can look and say, what is the brand? What are they trying to say? Who's their audience? And then I have all these obstacles and problems, and I can find the path in between them. But if I'm there with a blank page, like, what are my ideas? Nothing comes to mind.
Right.
So I still feel like I need something in front of me first before I start to create a solution.
Interesting. And what's that process like when you're working with an artist on a music video?
So I'll just talk to them a lot. We mentioned the Jar Jar video. That's still probably my favorite thing I've done. And we talked like a lot on the phone about what the song meant to him. And like I started to just come up with ideas in my mind and just try to how I could turn that song and his words and what he told me about what the song meant to him and like make the visual version of it.
And what was that conversation like?
So the word that we kept coming back to with that video in pre-production was catastrophizing, as in like sitting at home and just thinking, like overthinking and like turning everything into the worst possible version of what it could be.
Right.
That was what the song meant to Jar Jar. It was about just like completely overanalyzing, overthinking, and just like spinning down into this hole of despair. And like the more he talked, I kept getting these just like visual ideas came to mind. And for a long time, we actually had like a nice lead up in pre-production. There was like a month or two to discuss.
Right.
And I had these like 6 or 7 scenes in my mind. One of them being like him in this armchair with these storm clouds overhead.
Yeah.
And I had like a little drawing of that. And then I had these other ideas that were like completely unrelated, but they all related to that idea of catastrophizing or making the worst out of a scenario. And then there was like a moment where I think I was driving and I was looking for a connection for a long time because I didn't want it to just be unrelated scenes. And I was driving at some stage and it hit me that like, oh, he should be in the armchair for all of it. And like as soon as that like lightning bolt struck, I was like, that's the idea. Like I'm always looking for that thread. I don't want just every scene to be completely unrelated.
Yeah.
And when I found that thread of like, oh, we're gonna make a hip hop video, but he's sitting down in the same chair every scene. And then in the end of the song, there's these kind of hopeful strings. And I was like, that's when he's gonna stand up and realize it's not as bad as it seems.
Yeah, I think that's a really great example of coming up with an idea that can sustain an entire video, because I think it's deceptively hard to get those ideas. I mean, you know this, especially with music videos that are so well fused with the narrative and not just like aesthetically cool, but disconnected, you know?
Yeah.
And just because it seems so well planned out that it makes me think you had to storyboard it, or is that?
Yeah, I pretty much storyboard everything.
Okay.
There's a website called Millinote that I'm just a huge fan of. It's kind of good for mood boarding, storyboarding, but like I wrote out every lyric of the song and I color coded scenes and I basically did the edit before we shot anything.
Makes sense.
And I do that with like most of my videos now. Certain like commercial work, I will actually just shoot the whole thing on a phone first and actually edit it to the music, to the time. And I like have the video before it's done. I'm just a huge fan of pre-production and just getting it all out. But like pretty much every music video I've done, I can actually show you where I've written out all the lyrics. I have like color coded like drawings or like little screen grabs, and I've planned out the edit that way. There was a couple more scenes. I think we shot that Jar Jar video in one day. Wow. Looking back on it, I would have done 2 because there were a couple more scenes I wanted to do. Actually, just going back to what we said, because I just like clocked this in my head that like by putting him in the chair for the whole video, I created that problem for myself. And then I had a problem to solve, which is what we said about the blank page earlier. Like, I need a limitation. And once I'll find a limitation to give myself, and then that unlocks creativity because you're just boxed in and you're trying to find a way out.
That's it. I mean, that's literally the key. And it's weird because in the beginning, it feels antithetical to creativity. And you think you want to be able to have the option to go in all these millions of directions. But then you realize the more it sort of gets watered down like that, the less effective it becomes. Like you actually want it to be contained and be this bullet of an idea so someone else can absorb it, you know? And it just, like the ending of that video is sort of a perfect cap on the idea, which is that animation. And did you make that, or how did you do that?
That was my first time animating. I just learned how to animate for that. Again, I could have just asked someone. I think I asked one person and they're busy. I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll learn it myself.
Right.
I was just on After Effects, like fucking around with stuff, watching tutorials.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a while, but I was really happy with it in the end.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And so how do you gather your team of collaborators around you? Because you are so involved in all the parts of the process, do you have similar people you go back to, or?
Yeah, I definitely have a couple of people I go back to. Honestly, again, it's something I need to get better at. I usually just ask people way too late. Like I'll be sitting with the idea until the video's a week away. And then I'm like, oh shit, I need people on this. And then I'm like contacting people, scrambling. But yeah, definitely. Like I don't think I necessarily have like these rock solid collaborators. I like to work with different people on different projects, and I'm still like learning people's strengths and stuff like that.
Mm. And how much do you think about voice and branding, and maybe bringing a similar energy across your different projects, even though you're working with different
I
people?
try to not think too much about style.
Mm.
Um, I try to just like do the work, and then if I know, then I'll start to notice a thread. Like I know I've done more like photography work probably in total than video, just because it's kind of a quicker process. And like I never think about my style of photography, but
Mm.
I obviously then, after taking thousands and thousands of photos and then selecting my best ones, I'm like, oh, there's so many things that are common themes or like visual threads through this.
Yeah.
Um, Generally it's like great, bold colors and people looking straight down the lens.
Yes.
And I've noticed that in photography and video, like all my videos, people are just center framed looking right at the camera.
Yeah.
I don't know why I find that so powerful.
But it makes complete sense, because that's how your interest in photography evolved in New York, you
Yeah.
know, and even beyond that, like the spaces you choose, especially in the Curtisy video, where the locations all feel like they belong in a parkour video. Like these all combine to create a feeling of you in this work. Like I think that's what I was trying to say earlier is, you know, especially after meeting you, this work is definitely an extension of who you are.
Great.
And of course, because you're also editing most of them, you have that final say until the very end. Is editing something that you like doing in that regard, or?
I think I'd rather not edit in general. Yeah,
Okay.
like I don't feel like naturally that's me. I'm a bit too like ADHD and like I just need to be outside and moving.
Mhm.
So yeah, finding some editors to collaborate with would definitely be like a big goal moving forward.
Yeah.
But it's nice that I can do it myself, and again, nice that I can communicate. That's a funny catch actually on the Courtesy video. Every single spot was a parkour spot.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all like I'll show you my Google Maps later, but it's like I have like stars. There's thousands of stars, and they're almost all parkour spots. But it was an incredible way to explore the city,
Right.
because I used to just walk around on the weekends like looking for nice walls, basically.
Yeah.
But then you like obviously with my mind I can clock like, oh, that's an incredible visual
Mm.
like yeah,
Yeah.
incredible visual location, and I'm going to use that in the future. So
Mm.
the Courtesy video was just me. We couldn't afford any lights on that, so it was just like I knew we had to have nice locations, and also like trying to find like a big wall to at least get some shape in the light, so there'd be a bit of shade.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, we need locations with like urban nice walls,
Yeah.
and then all those spots came to mind. So
Amazing. I also love the sort of small visual ideas that are placed throughout that video, like the opening knuckles shot and the cloney effect. Like it all just works so well together. And did you teach yourself those skills for that video too, or did you have some previous experience with visual effects?
I'd done like quite enough kind of After Effects stuff in work. So just like over 6 years in Bold, there were just like certain asks that like I think I just always took it on. I always just feel like knowledge of the software is actually a bit overrated. That like once you have a tutorial and the right mindset, you can pretty much do anything.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, that's why like I color grade my own stuff. I don't think I'm pro at that, but like I'll just always have a go at it. And again, like, yeah, I think people overestimate how long it takes to learn the software. Like most of that software, you can get a pretty good grasp of in a couple of days. And then it's just entirely what's in your mind.
And when you're trying to communicate that idea or image that's in your mind, have you found any tips or tricks to get artists on board with your concept and help them sort of understand your vision?
Yeah, like the videos we've talked about, those guys just trusted me entirely, which is amazing. But I think that like lengthy pre-production process I talked about of like storyboarding out everything, and even like I'll even make a video. I think for the Courtesy one, I made the music video but with words of what was happening. So it's literally just like flashcards color coded for each scene popping up. And I, again, had edited the video before we shot it.
Incredible.
I knew exactly what was going to happen at each section.
Mm.
And I think like maybe 10% of it changed in the edit.
Wow.
But for the most part, that was completely storyboarded and planned out.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's so hard to tell someone what you mean, especially with a visual idea, without showing them some concrete elements first.
Yeah. No one has the same imagination.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like you can tell someone something and they'd be like, I totally understand. But like they're imagining something completely different.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. I think that's why art is so interesting. Like, you know, you're always trying to speak 1,000 languages just to communicate exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And it's abstract and it's personal. And, you know, through it, you get to, like you're saying, you get to develop this trust with people.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something you'd want to carry over into longer form narrative work going forward, or?
Yeah, like I honestly haven't really thought too much about narrative right now. I think I will in like 5 to 10 years. I think that might be a focus, but right now I'm actually more interested in commercial work.
Okay.
So like commercial director is the goal right now, and I have directed a few, but I don't know if I've ever like hit the exact like style I wanted to with them. It's obviously a little bit harder where client is involved. Like I think if I had to specialize in something, it would be that kind of fashion, lifestyle, maybe even alcohol branding work. I've done a little bit of it before, but just like getting deeper into that world and getting more experienced. I think I'm still like, I want to conquer the idea of kind of building up all the different jobs before you hit director. I kind of feel the same way about like, I want to get really proficient at like a 30-second piece before I start thinking about 15 minutes and then eventually like 2 hours, which seems insane to me. But yeah, I think just like, I want to nail advertising as like a thing first.
And is the goal to remain freelance and build your own thing that way, or?
I think remaining freelance, yeah.
Okay.
And just like, hopefully just exciting projects keep coming my way. And yeah, as I said, like I think a dream project would be probably like some intersection between fashion and documentary, like telling real stories through the lens of a clothing brand, things like that. Like,
And was fashion always a big interest of yours?
I don't think it was in my earlier life, but it has become it. Maybe through filmmaking.
Right.
That like a lot of the ads I really enjoy watching are fashion ones, and then I probably have been around so many creatives. I've got a little bit more into clothing, and
Yeah, just in terms of visual aesthetics, it's a great world to be a part of.
yeah, like it's acceptable to just make something that's cool for no reason, which is nice. I like
Yeah.
that. And then if you want to bring a bit more feeling or emotion in, that's allowed as well. And I think music videos are the same, where like no one's gonna think less of you for just making something cool, which is great. A lot of times I feel like, and maybe why I'm a bit hesitant to do a short film is like, I just feel like you're getting so dissected on like the substance of it.
Yes.
And I do think that's something that I will get more interested in. But like right now, I'm pretty happy to just make a cool, exciting visual work and like, yeah.
And so would there be any interest in writing then, or no, that's not really?
No, it is something I definitely want to get into. Like I would love to get a short film done this year. It'll kind of depend on like my free time, but like definitely in the next year or two, I would like to branch out into a short film.
That's great.
I think Rob Bass said this to you on the podcast.
Yeah.
That like I get a lot of ideas. I'm terrible at sitting down and writing. Again, the blank page thing, but I just need to present myself that problem and actually carve out space for myself to write, not think it's something that might just happen.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's just approaching it like you approach everything. And
Yeah.
that's the great thing about your tactic of setting up a problem to solve, because that relates to almost every, if not all, art forms. And it's just this time the problem is setting up a scene, establishing characters and what they want. And are you a big cinema fan? Would you watch a lot of films?
Yeah, big time. I'd say I'm in the cinema like on average once a week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, always interested in film.
And who would be your sort of influences? I mean, we've talked a little about Spike Jonze, but beyond him, what filmmakers come to mind?
At the moment, very relevant for now, but like obsessed with the Safdies.
Mm.
And I think were I to make a short film or something, like I would just be trying not to copy them, because I'm so in love with their work and that style, that like pace and emotion and like frantic nature. Like I'm so drawn to that like excitement. And when I'm trying to think of ideas now for short films and stuff, I'm like, I'll think of something like, oh, that's like something they would make. And then I'm almost like drawn back. But
Yeah.
I think I need to not do that, because like any photo shoot I do, there's always like a one strong reference of like this other photographer. And there's always this slight fear of like, oh, am I copying? But then 9 times out of 10, after I make the thing, I'm like, oh, it's nothing like the reference.
Yeah, it can.
It's kind of become its own thing. So I think, yeah, just getting too caught up, I'm like, oh, am I copying this? Am I copying that?
Yeah.
Like, if you look at anything, say Tarantino's made, like it's entirely references, but he does it so much that it becomes his own work.
Yeah, I think the more you mature as an artist, the more you can kind of lean into your references with a greater sense of confidence in
Yeah.
that, whatever you create will be something new. Like it has to be, provided, you're staying true to your taste and putting in the work to sort of go on your own journey instead of just copying something line for line. And I think people sort of need that part of it in order to resonate with the piece, and
Yeah.
and actually that's something I wanted to ask you was, do you ever notice a common element across your work that seems to consistently grab people's attention and draw them in?
Yeah, like I think people like to be surprised at the moment because I think we consume so much that like I always just try to have something a little bit out of the ordinary. And I think that's what people have reacted to. Like I'm the same as you where I love a narrative thread beginning to end.
Mm.
I'm not sure how many people even click onto the full video anymore, but I always just part of my brain is always thinking about someone like scrolling through Instagram and like they just want to see something they haven't seen and they just want to be completely taken off guard. And I just try to have like a couple of those elements in everything I do because I like that as well. Like, yeah, we consume so much and it's so easy to just make the same thing, but just having those little moments of like, whoa, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I've gotten a big reaction to. And like a couple of my videos that have gone like done big numbers, say on social media, it has been that little element of surprise.
Yeah, it's kind of like a magic trick in a way that you need that sort of element in order to generate awe and like captivate an audience.
Yeah, I love that idea of like just I think if there was like 3 things I was striving for in almost all of my work, it's like an emotional base, like a little bit of an emotional connection, like a striking visual, and then third would just be that like pulling the rug out from under someone. Like, oh, you thought it was this, actually it's this. If I could hit those 3 notes and everything I did, I'd be a very happy man.
Yeah, wow. I think they're really solid pillars to build
Yeah.
from. So before we wrap up, is there anything sort of about your own creative journey that maybe we didn't touch on or anything like that? Or
I think so much of what I've done has been about like volume of work. Like I think there's kind of 2 types of creative and like there's one type that I know directors, for example, that will say no to anything that's not their style. And they kind of have this idea of their work and like there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm actually like super impressed by people who can do that, who can just be like, this is my style and I will work within my style and do these videos. But for me, it's been kind of like a volume thing, just like working and chipping away and just like doing a job. And I might be like, okay, that wasn't me, finding out trial and error, like what it is, what it isn't, and just doing volume. And like, I think I'm just going to keep doing that. Just keep taking photos, keep making videos. And I think slowly whittle away the things that you're definitely not good at or not into. And just, yeah, finding my style and my voice that way.